Hey everybody, in this video I'll be playing the House of the Golem scenario, which is the third scenario for the Hunt for the Golem supplement for Frostgrave. And this is the 13th battle overall for my 2nd edition campaign. Hey everybody, I'm Alan with Bricks and Blocks Gaming. Tabletop gaming with bricks and blocks and helping to build your gameplay experience. In this battle, Frappuccino and Mocha the Sigilist and Zygomor the Necromancer have finished their research on the Granite Golem and have come to the conclusion it must be destroyed before it causes more carnage around Frostgrave. So now, the two wizards have arrived at the place the Golem calls home to put an end to the bizarre creation. But now let's take a look at the state of the Warbands at the start of the battle, and then we will get to the bricks and blocks of the House of the Golem scenario. Frappuccino and Mocha, the 15th level Sigilist, is carrying 2 scrolls of Time Walk, and his apprentice Rider is carrying scrolls of Destroy Undead, Right Scroll, and Bones of the Earth. Their Warband is made up of a Barbarian with a 2-handed weapon of +1 fight, an Apothecary, an Infantryman with a 2-handed weapon of +1 damage, a Man-at-Arms, a Knight with Gauntlets of Strength, a Treasure Hunter with a Dagger of +1 fight, a Demon Hunter with a crossbow of +1 damage, and their Crowmaster. Zygomor, the 16th level Necromancer, is wearing a robe of arrow turning, and his brother Ethmod is wearing a ring of protection and carrying a scroll of Elemental Bolt. Their warband includes a Man-at-Arms with Boots of Speed, an Infantryman, an Assassin, a Knight with a shield of +1 armor, 2 Barbarians, one of which is wearing a ring of +1 armor, a Templar with a 2-handed weapon of fight +1, and their new Crowmaster. My board is all set up, so I'll go ahead and roll my before game spells for Zygomor. He'll do Raise Zombie on a 10 with a +2 because of his crypt. He failed. Ethmod will be just a straight 10, which he gets, so they'll have their zombie. And then they'll attempt Brew Potion on a 13 for Zygomor, failure. Ethmod with a -2. He gets that. And then Reveal Secret, Zygomor on a 16, and Ethmod with a -2. And he gets that with a couple 20s there. Now, probably the best thing to do with a brewed potion is to make a potion of preservation, which can be sold for 200 gold crowns. But that's starting to feel, I don't know, maybe a little bit overpowered here. So I'm going to have them actually brew stuff that they'll use rather than just sell. So Ethmod will make a potion of healing and give that to his brother Zygomor. The House of the Golem scenario takes place in a ruined factory where they used to construct constructs. And the scenario calls for some multi-level terrain, as this factory had multiple floors, but parts have kind of caved in. That's why we've got some snowy areas here where the snow is coming through the roof, and we've got some ruined platforms here. To represent the fragility of these structures, anytime a 1 is rolled for an initiative roll, that player can make a +5 shooting attack against any soldier or uncontrolled creature, and if a 20 is rolled, that player can essentially cast a cripple spell on any piece of structure on the board. The only other special thing about this scenario is that the Granite Golem makes another appearance, and this time, instead of just trying to find out some things about it, the Warbands are trying to destroy it so that it will stop terrorizing the lands of Frostgrave. And if it is destroyed, then whichever player is in control of the battlefield at the end of the game will gain the Golem scripts, which I'll discuss after the game. Another thing players can do is if they take control of it with Control Construct, they are allowed to move it off the board, and if they do that, they will gain those scripts instead. And finally, the Golem starts in the middle of the board, but then moves 10 inches in a random direction, ignoring terrain, so it is going to move this way. And that random direction is done after the board is set up, so everybody is deployed. And the Granite Golem, 10 inches from center, is going to go right here. And taking a look at the rest of the board, we have treasure tokens here, here, 2 up top over here, and then the central token there. And Frappuccino rolled to set up first, so we'll go to his deployment. Most of his team is jumbled up here in this busted up building. We've got Frappuccino. Next to him is his Crowmaster, his Man-at-Arms, his Infantryman, Rider the Apprentice, their Knight, and their Apothecary. And then over here they have their Demon Hunter, their Barbarian, and then their Treasure Hunter. And over here on the other side of the board, Zygomor is set up right here with his Zombie, his Orc Barbarian, his Lady Barbarian, their Man-at-Arms, their Two-Headed Templar, then Ethmod with the Assassin, the Knight, and over here they have their Infantryman and their Crowmaster with his Crow. Now, any scenario that includes a main boss like this requires the players to kind of make a decision of, do they want to team up to take it down? Do they want to just let it kind of cause chaos to their opponent? Or do they just want to ignore it altogether? And these two warbands, they both see the importance of getting rid of this thing before it causes more damage around the city. So they will both make attempts to take it down and probably team up to do that. But we'll see what actually ends up happening as the battle unfolds. Initiative for the first round barely goes to Zygomor over here. So Zygomor was really hoping to go first because this treasure token here is in view of the spellcasters down there, so he was really concerned this would get telekinesed that way. So he is going to activate with his Man-at-Arms. Man-at-Arms has boosted speed because of his Boots of Speed. So on a single move, he can move 7 inches into contact with this. And he'll go ahead and pick that up with his second action. See if a monster appears on an 11+, and it does not. Zygomor will then move up right behind him. And from there, he can kind of see down this alleyway here, right down there in front of that group, and he's going to cast Imp down there. Casting on a 10, failure by 1, he will empower for 1. So that Imp will appear right down here to kind of hinder Frappuccino's plans. And this is one of those moments where a group activation actually makes sense over a standard activation. So Frappuccino will group activate with the Crowmaster, the Infantryman, and the Knight. And he'll start by sending the Crowmaster and then the Infantryman and Knight all into combat with this Imp. And now that that Imp is completely locked up in combat, Frappuccino is going to just kind of walk around here. And he'll be the first to use his second action, and he is going to look down here and use Fool's Gold on that Man-at-Arms carrying that treasure. He casts this on a 12. He gets a 15. He will not empower that. The Man-at-Arms has a +1 will to resist this, and he gets it. He gets a 16, so he does not get affected by that Fool's Gold and holds on to his treasure. With that plan foiled, he is now going to have the Knight attack the Imp with double support. So that makes the Knight a +8 against +1. And he gets an 11, but he does deal +1 damage because of his Gauntlets of Strength. So that deals 2 points of damage to the 10 armored Imp. And next, the Infantryman will attack, again with double support. So this is now a +7 against +1. And he takes care of business. So that Imp gets sent back to the world of spare Lego parts, and then the Crowmaster still has a second action. He is going to just move over here next to this ladder so that he can possibly climb that to get to this treasure if that construct moves away from it. To the apprentice phase, the Necromancers know that the other team likes to push their guys off of buildings, so Ethmod is going to start out by climbing up this pillar that's next to him. So he can climb 3 inches, which puts him right there. And from there, he can see this treasure, and he is going to attempt Telekinesis on it. So Telekinesis isn't really one of their strengths. It's a 13 with a -2, but he gets a 16 and is successful. So 6 inches, we'll let him bring it right over here, and then he will drop it at 6 inches, which puts it right here. Over to Ryder's turn. He is going to kind of snake around here and hug this wall, and then use Explosive Rune right over here. Casting on a 10 with a -2. That's a 3. They haven't really used this spell much. He'll go ahead and empower that for 7. And for Zygomor's soldier phase, they'll start out over here. They will have their Blood Crow. He will fly down here behind this little wall for some protection, moving up to 13.5 inches on a double move. And then their infantryman will kind of run along these tracks and pop out 9 inches away over there. Their Crowmaster will come over here and he will pick up this treasure. I'll roll to see if a monster appears, and it does not. And then these two soldiers here, the Knight and the Assassin, will both double move under this archway, with the Slow Knight getting left behind there and the Assassin making it up there on their double moves. And then with the rest of their team here, their 2 Barbarians will both run through this pathway over here, and they'll both end up right here next to this Knight. They don't want to go out any further or else they'll get seen by that construct. And then their last 2 soldiers, the Zombie and the Templar, will both run up here to be bodyguards for Zygomor, creating a nice pile of soldiers there. Over to this side, they'll start out by having this Crow. He's going to cause a distraction. He's going to fly over here. So right there underneath that walkway, that puts him in line of sight of this Granite Golem. So if the Golem can see a figure that is less than 10 inches away, it will run towards them. If it sees a figure more than 10 inches away, it'll just stand there and throw a rock. So that's close enough that this guy will run at it, but far enough that it can't get to the bird in a single move. So it'll have to double move into combat and hopefully run past that rune marker there. Next, their man-at-arms will kind of climb his way over part of this wall and then go inside this building here. So he is inside there, and then we'll go over here to this treasure hunter, and she is going to double move over here and then climb up part of this wall. So that puts her right up there. And then their demon hunter is going to run 6 inches over here, and from right there he can see over here to the Granite Golem. There is 1 piece of intervening terrain. I did make sure he is further away than the bird is to the Granite Golem. So the Golem is normally a +4, but he gets +1 for intervening terrain, but -2 for being large, so he's a +3 against +2 shoot, and he defends that. Then they'll finish up their turn with having their Barbarian double move over here, and their Apothecary running over here into contact with the Rider and using his healing potion on the apprentice. And to the creature phase, the Granite Golem will now move towards the bird, and on its way there will trigger this explosive rune. So we'll stop him kind of mid-walk, and we'll roll that up. This is a +5 magical attack. It isn't a shooting attack, so that will be +5 against +4. And that is a 13. The Golem has 13 armor, so it's unfazed by that, and then it will move forward into combat with the bird. Initiative for the next round goes to Zygomor, and with that 20, that lets him essentially cast a crumble spell anywhere on the board. So there's not a lot of real great spots to use this, since there's nobody up on buildings to crumble the ground out from underneath them. But they'll go ahead and use it to destroy part of this wall right here. And with that hole there, they can see into that central treasure token and maybe get there a little bit quicker. Zygomor will start out by activating with all 3 of these soldiers around him, and he'll send the Templar 7.5 inches right up here. So he'll go kind of right down there. He can't quite get to the treasure on a double move. And then this man-at-arms, going at half speed with this loot, can run right into this ruined building over to there, so he's out of view of enemy Fool's Gold spells. And then Zygomor is going to attempt Fleet Feet on himself, casting on a 9, which he gets. Then with 8 inches, he is able to run up here, right here by this new hole in the wall where he can see through to that center treasure token. And then the zombie here will just run 6 inches on a double move to right there. So a couple interesting things about this scenario is that If any sort of magical attack lands the final blow on the Granite Golem, it will explode. So that means magical weapons that land a final attack will do that as well. So Frappuccino wants to cast Enchant Weapon, but that's not going to be a good idea. Another interesting thing is that while the construct has some special immunities to control construct, it doesn't say anything about mind control. So I believe you could mind control it like normal, but it does have a high willpower, so Frappuccino's not going to bother doing that. And instead, he's going to activate by himself and run right over here onto these tracks where he will cast Push on the Granite Golem. Casting on a 7, which he gets. This is a +10 against +4. And he wins with a 23 against 13 armor, so that pushes it 10 inches. So that'll push it past the bird it's in combat with. And this isn't an inch high, so it'll move past this right over here onto these tracks. We'll turn him around so we can see his angry face. Over to Ethmod's turn, hanging out up here on this pillar. He can see his knight down here, and he will attempt Fleet Feet on him. Casting on a 9 with a -2, and he gets that. Then he will climb down and move a few more inches right over here, and end his turn. Then over here, Rider will activate with this knight, and Rider will start out by running right up over here. And against the corner of that building, he can see this Templar, and he is going to attempt mind control. This is a 16 with a -2, so he fails by 6, and he will empower that for 6 putting it at the minimum casting number of 14. A couple empowerments and a healing potion leaves Rider at 10 health, and the Templar gets a +1 for his will, 13, so he fails by 1. He is controlled. He has already gone this turn, so he won't get to do anything for the Sigilists until next turn. And then the knight will just double move in front of Rider to act as his bodyguard. To the soldier phase, Zygomor's team is going to see what they can do to this Granite Golem. This barbarian here on a double move can go through here and end his action in combat with the Granite Golem. Then their Blood Crow up here is going to move into combat to just add support. Then their Assassin is going to run over here to attack it. And he is double supported, but with the Assassins, the first figure that adds support gives a +4 instead of the usual +2 bonus. So that puts the Assassin at the maximum of +6 for a support bonus at a total of +8 against +4 for the Granite Golem. But he gets a 19 to a 21, and that is +2 damage for a total of 12 damage against that Assassin, and he goes down. Well, that wasn't quite their plan, but now the Infantryman is going to try his luck with double support. So that puts him at a +7 against +4. But he takes 14 damage and goes down. And then their barbarian lady over here, she can just barely get into combat on a single move, and she will attack. With her double support, she's a +8 against +4. And it's 20 to 20, so they both deal damage. And those both deal +2 damage, so the barbarian takes 12 damage, putting her down to 2. And against 13 armor, the construct takes 9 damage, putting him down to 7. Well, 2 soldiers down and another one wounded is not what they were expecting from that combat, but so is the way of the D20. And then this knight is going to single move through this new hole in the wall, and since his Fleet Feet allowed him to get there in a single move, he'll use his second action to pick up the treasure token. See if a monster appears. No monster. And then to finish up their turn, this Crowmaster carrying this treasure will move this whole hill, and then he will run over here 4.5 inches on his double move. For Frappuccino's soldiers, their Crowmaster will climb over this rubble into contact with this treasure, but he can't pick it up this turn. Their Infantryman will double move up here 9 inches. Their Apothecary Can't really do a whole lot. He'll just run over here. Their Demon Hunter will reload his crossbow with his first action, and then he will run over here 6 inches. The Treasure Hunter will pick up this treasure that's in front of her, and then we'll roll to see if a monster shows up. On an 11 plus, still no monsters. So she just hopped down from there and is heading off this way with her treasure token. This Barbarian is going to double move in here into contact with this Knight to try to keep him from leaving with that central treasure token. Then this Blood Crow here will fly behind the Knight to get into combat with him. So it's a little hard to move around in there, but there he is in combat there. And then I almost forgot that their Man-at-Arms is in here, so he's going to move out, and then he can get into combat with the Knight down there as well. And that is on a single move, so he can now attack with double support. So that makes him a +7 against +3 for the encumbered Knight. The Knight wins with a 20 though, dealing 8 points of damage, wounding the Man-at-Arms. And then he'll push him out of combat, and we'll go to the creature phase. The Barbarian has 2 health, but this Blood Crow has just 1, so the Granite Golem will attack the Crow. With support, the Crow is +4 against +4. And the Crow wins with a 23. Well, that is kind of hilarious. The Crow deals 10 damage to it, and it goes down Mario style here. And we'll go to initiative for the next round, which goes to Frappuccino, and he can use a crumble spell. Well, I guess Frappuccino will use that crumble on this wall here, creating some line of sight to this Man-at-Arms. Frappuccino this round is going to use the Fool's Gold spell, and even though he blasted a hole through this wall and he could potentially move to see that, he's going to go after this central token, so he will try Fool's Gold on that Knight. Casting on a 12, which he gets. And since Frappuccino is at full health, he is going to go ahead and empower that for 4, bringing it up to a difficulty of 18 to resist, and the Knight has a +1 to his roll, which he fails. So he will move this treasure token 4 inches this way, right next to his Knight. And then Frappuccino is going to run right over here. For Zygomor's turn right over here, he is going to activate with the zombie and with the Knight, who, it's kind of dark, but you can see him through that wall. And he will start out by moving over around here, climbing over this to right over here. And from there, he is going to attempt Spell Eater on the mind control that's controlling his Templar. Casting on a 12, he failed by 5. He will empower and take 1 point of damage, as that spell always causes 1 damage. Next, he will have his zombie double move over here into combat with this infantryman to keep him busy. And then the Knight down here will attack the Blood Crow that's standing behind him. The Knight is no longer encumbered, so he is a +4 against +2 for the supported bird. And he gets a 14, but doesn't get past the 14 armor of the bird. Rider here will then move 6 inches back to here and attempt Telekinesis on that treasure. Needing a 10 with a -2, failed by 6, he will empower for 4. So that will move the treasure right over here by Frappuccino, 6 inches, and Rider is down to 6 health. Ethmod over here will then activate by himself, run around here, and from right there he can see all the way down here where he will attempt Imp right down here. Casting on a 10 with a -2, he fails that, taking 2 points of damage. Moving to the soldier phase, Frappuccino's team will start out by having this Crowmaster pick up the final token that has not been picked up yet, so we'll see if a monster appears. On an 11 plus, and no random monsters are appearing in this battle. And then he is going to knock over that pillar and then actually run this way with his treasure, trying to get off this side over here. Then they'll have their apothecary that doesn't have any potion or anything run right over here and use his second action to pick up the central treasure token that has already been picked up. Down here, their treasure hunter will move 5 1/4 inches this way with her treasure token. And heading over to the middle of the board, they'll have their infantryman attack this zombie. That's a +3 against +1. That is a 19, and that is a magical weapon with +1 damage in addition to the normal +2. So that is a total of 10 damage on the 6 health zombie. So it crumbles into a pile of bones. And then the infantryman will run over here to get into combat with this knight, and then they will have their barbarian attack with double support. The barbarian has a two-handed weapon of +1 fight, so he's a +9 against +4. And he gets a 25 against 14 armor for that knight because of his shield +1. So that shield keeps the knight alive with 1 health, and the barbarian will stay in combat. Then they will have their blood crow attack with double support. The wounded knight is now a +2 against +4 for the double supported crow. And the crows are insane in this battle. That crow takes down that knight. So the knight goes down, and then the blood crow is going to fly around here and get into combat with Zygomor. So that might be preventing Zygomor from using any spells next turn. Then their demon hunter is going to run over here, where he's got a clear line of sight. Well, he can see the barbarian now. There is 1 piece of intervening terrain, plus he moved. So that'll bump the wounded barbarian back up to +4 fight against +2 shoot. And it defends the crossbow bolt. And last for their team, their man-at-arms and their knight are both going to come over here to make a wall to make sure no enemy forces can get to their spellcasters or their treasure-carrying apothecary. For Zygomor's soldier phase, this man-at-arms can half move over to here, picking a spot where no one can see him through any holes in the wall. And then this Crowmaster will run off the board, securing the first treasure token. Then their Blood Crow down here will fly this way, has to double move to get into combat with the opposing Blood Crow. And then their Templar that is back under their control is going to run over here to attack this Crow with double support to try to free up his Wizard. So he is a +9 against +0. And 1 means you always fail. So he fails, and the crow will just push him out of combat, I suppose. So he gets shoved to here, and then their 2 barbarians are just gonna run this way. Well, the orc barbarian will run to right there, and then the lady barbarian is going to run around here. She's only got 2 health left, so she wants to take some cover. Initiative for the next round goes to Frappuccino again. Frappuccino is going to activate with his knight and his man-at-arms. He'll start by sending the man-at-arms around over here. And then his knight he will send right over here. And then he can just barely through here see this Crowmaster, and he is going to attempt to push him towards the side of the battlefield. He needs a 7 to activate it, which he gets. And with that Crowmaster, since he's only carrying a hand weapon, he's still slowed when he's carrying treasure, but he's not encumbered, so he doesn't get the -1 fight penalty. So he is a +0 against +10. And that is a 17 against 11 armor. That shoves him right over here into this minecart, which means he'll have enough movement to get off the board when he activates. And then Frappuccino is going to run around here. Zygomor over here will activate with his bird, his Templar, and his Barbarian. And the Barbarian is going to run into combat with the enemy Crow. And he'll see if he has better luck than the Templar. He's a +8 against +0. And he gets a 24, which crushes that bird. So the Gray Crow goes down, and then the Templar first, and then the Red Bird are going to come over here. So the Templar essentially double moved into combat, and then I moved the bird over into combat on a single move, and it will attack the infantryman with support. So the Crow is a +2 against +3, and the Crow fails. That is a 11 with +3 damage, which doesn't get past the Crow's armor. So the infantryman will push the Crow out of combat, and then we'll go to Zygomor here. And from there, he is going to look down here and attempt Steal Health on Rider. He casts this on a 10, so he gets a 9. He will empower that for 1, and then that'll bump it up to the minimum casting number of 14. Rider will attempt to resist this. He has a +2 to his will, and he gets a 15, so he resists that. Zygomor will choose to stand his ground, and then we will go down to Rider, who will activate with the Apothecary. And Rider will start out by running over here, where he will attempt to push the Apothecary right through there. Push cast on a 7 with a -2, which he gets. The Apothecary is encumbered, so he's a +0 against +10 for the push. And the push wins with a 26. So that will push him this way 15 inches. He will go over this because it's less than an inch. So he'd go right here to the edge, then he would activate, and he will move off the board, securing the central treasure token. And with the Necromancers not being too happy that the Sigilists just stole that central treasure token, Ethmod is going to run out here, where he can see Rider, and then he will attempt Steal Health, casting on a 10 with a -2, and he'll go ahead and empower that for 5 up to the maximum of 18. And then Rider can attempt to resist this. He has a +2 to his will, but only gets a 6. So that brings Rider down to 3 health, and he is wounded. And then to the Sigilist soldier phase, this treasure-carrying treasure hunter will run off the board with this treasure. And then on the front side of the board here, this Crowmaster can now run off this side with his treasure token. And then in the middle of the board here, their infantryman will attack the Templar. This is a +3 against +5. And that is a 12 for the Templar, with +2 damage, dealing 3 points of damage to the infantryman. The Templar will push him out of combat, and then the infantryman will then run 6 inches over here. And then the Demon Hunter is going to run this way as they will start their retreat. Their Barbarian over here is going to run over past the infantryman to here. For Zygomor's soldier phase, they could have this treasure-carrying man-at-arms run off the board, and that would end the game because there'd be no more treasure tokens left on the board. However, whichever player is in control of the board at the end of this scenario gains the Golem scripts if the Golem is destroyed. So if they left now, no one would control the board and no one would get those. So instead, since Frappuccino is in full retreat mode trying to get off the side here, the Necromancers will essentially just hang out over here on their side of the board and let the Sigilists leave. And instead of just showing a bunch of movements over the next turn and a half, I'm going to just go ahead and call the game here with the Necromancers securing this treasure and securing the Golem scripts from the Granite Golem. Except for the Blood Crow, Frappuccino had no fallen soldiers, so we'll jump to the after-game spells. So Frappuccino on a 12 with a +1, he got that, so he'll make another scroll of Time Walk, and then Rider will attempt the same thing, and he gets a 16, so 2 scrolls of Time Walk, and I think I'm going to start using these probably for their next battle, because Frappuccino is carrying 2 of them, and they now have 4 of them in their vault. For experience points, they once again cast all of their spells successfully, so 80 there, plus 40 participation points and 120 for 3 treasures. Allowed them to pass 3 levels, and they used 1 level to increase their fight to plus 4. They used 1 to lower the casting number for Fool's Gold down to 11, and they had a Grimoire of Elemental Ball, which they learned that spell from. Next, I'll make a roll for their treasury to see if they find anything there, and a 1, so that is 1 gold crown. And actually, in the first edition, a 1 would be a magic trap that the Warbands set off, but in the second edition, a 1 is actually nothing. For this scenario, there is a special treasure table that the players are allowed to roll on, and any number of their treasures can be rolled on this table instead of the standard treasure table. And just for fun, I'm going to have all of the treasures rolled on this table. Frappuccino will roll for his central treasure token first. He can potentially re-roll this if he wants. That gives him an item that helps him cast Control Construct. He's going to go ahead and re-roll that and instead get the True Stroke Chisel, and will roll for his other 2. So this is a Construct Hammer, and this is another True Stroke Chisel. I'll point out that this Construct Hammer in the Hunt for the Golem scenario is different from the Construct Hammer found in the 2nd edition core book. Both of these weapons become part of a construct when it is first animated, but in the core book's version, it essentially acts as if they're carrying a magical weapon with a +1 damage modifier. The version found in the Hunt for the Golem scenario also counts as a magical weapon, but it counts as a 2-handed weapon, so that should give it +2 damage instead of just +1. And I'll point out that this can be attached to a large construct, which means it would essentially have +4 damage because it already has the strong trait. And with the 2 True Stroke Chisels, what that item does is that it gives a +1 bonus whenever the wizard only uses an Animate construct spell. And it's not cumulative, so having 2 of them in their vault won't really serve any benefit for them, so they will be selling 1 of them. And since there is no selling price listed, according to the 2nd edition book, any items that don't have sell amounts listed sell at 40% of their sales price. Frappuccino had another great game, and was able to easily move 3 treasures off the board while keeping all of his soldiers, except the expendable Bloodcrow, alive. The aging Sigilist could have probably stayed behind to battle Zygomor for control of the board and obtain the script of the Golem, but at this stage of his life, money is more important to him than experience, so rather than risk losing some soldiers, he made the decision to leave early. He sold one of the True Stroke Chisels for 100 gold crowns, and is keeping the other and the Construct Hammer in case they ever build a construct. Zygomor and Ethmod had 2 soldiers that were taken down by the Granite Golem, and then their knight just fell in regular combat, so we'll make some survival checks. For the man-at-arms, he is fine. The assassin, he is fine, and their knight with their magical shield is unfortunately dead. For experience points, the Necromancers had 7 spells successfully cast and 1 that failed and caused damage. They get their 40 participation points and then 80 for recovering 2 treasure tokens. And then the Granite Golem that they defeated doesn't give them any special experience for this battle, just gives them the normal +5 for defeating a monster. But they did get the script of the Golem from him that gives them 50 extra experience points. So altogether they got 250 for the battle. Combined with what they already had, they were able to pass 2 levels and have 85 experience points left over. They maxed out their fight at +5 and +3, and they lowered the casting number of Spell Eater down to 11. With their 2 treasure tokens, since Ethmod cast Reveal Secret before the game, they can make 2 rolls for the first one and take the one they want. These will both be on the Hunt for the Golem treasure table. So this is Construct Oil, which will essentially give a construct +1 move if used on it when it's formed. They can actually brew that with their Brew Potion ability. And this one here is a Book of the Construct, and that allows a spellcaster to use Enchant Weapon on a construct. However, since they don't have that spell and they don't have a way to make constructs right now. They're actually going to keep the construct oil, because they can actually sell that for more than they could sell the book for. Now we'll see what the other treasure token is, and it is more construct oil. Zygomor's plans were kind of disrupted this battle. He'd planned to send most of his forces to the middle of the board, but when the Granite Golem was pushed to one side, the Necromancer ended up splitting his forces to both tackle the Golem and try to obtain the central treasure, which proved disastrous as they lost the token and their knight with the magical shield was killed. And I found it hilarious that Zygomor's crow somehow landed the finishing blow on the boss of the whole campaign after the Golem had already taken out 2 other soldiers and left a barbarian wounded. Zygomor hired a 3rd barbarian to take the place of the fallen knight, and he ended up selling one of the vials of construct oil they found, but is keeping the other one and the script of the Golem safe in his vault in case he ever builds a construct. This concludes the 3-part mini-campaign, The Hunt for the Golem. I will be releasing a review of this Frostgrave supplement that will be linked in the description box below once it's available. Let me know in the comment section if you have any questions about my gameplay, or if there's any rules that you noticed that I got wrong. Also, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to click like or subscribe so you can keep up with all the content that I'm releasing. I want to thank you for watching. I'm Alan with Bricks and Blocks Gaming, and I'll see you on the next video.